And for those, Trustee Talman, Chancellor Salgado, we're gonna get going in a minute or two.
Okay, we're up.
Okay, great. And all right, so we're now live streaming. And just a second. Okay. And perfect. Vice Chair Swanson, just so that you know, Trustee Kennett will be participating by phone for the first few minutes or so. But I believe we have a full board.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, and I believe we're just at 12:29. So if you'd like to get started, Vice Chair, you may do so.
Okay, great. Good afternoon. The Thursday, February 4th, 2021 meeting of the Committee on Academic Affairs and Student Services is now called to order. Will the Assistant Board Secretary please call the roll?
Chair Massey?
Here.
Secretary Davis?
Here.
Trustee Kent? Trustee Kent, if you can unmute. Oh, okay. Well, she might have dropped off for a second. Trustee Lopez?
Here.
Trustee Tallman?
Here.
Trustee Williams?
Here.
Student Trustee Thomas?
Here.
And Vice Chair Swanson?
Here. All right, thanks so much. And welcome back to committee. As a result of COVID-19, we have not held the committee meetings in quite some time. And I know I speak for the rest of my colleagues on the board when I say that we are really looking forward to holding committee meetings again and having more opportunities to really engage and have discussions. For some of our trustees and staff members, this is their first committee meeting, so welcome. And we are going to start with Provost Potter, if you have any remarks for us today.
Thank you, Vice Chair Swanson. I'd like to start by thanking everyone who's joining us for this meeting of the Academic Affairs and Student Services Committee of the City Colleges of Chicago Board of Trustees. I too am pleased that we're returning to the practice of holding this regular committee meeting and spending time focusing on our academic programs, our student services, and our student experiences and outcomes. Today, we'll have a presentation by President David Sanders and the Malcolm X College team on their Community Health Worker Program, a growing component of their Center of Excellence in Healthcare. The presentation will offer a look into how community health worker programs and initiatives at Malcolm X College have grown and evolved since the first program launch in 2016 to meet the public health needs of Chicagoans. Most recently, this growth in programming focuses on support for opioid impacted families. I also want to report that we continue to work productively and collegially with our colleagues on Faculty Council of City Colleges. We've been discussing and coming to a shared understanding of the bill passed by the state legislature that informs how we serve students who come to us in need of supports to reach college readiness. We'll be working collaboratively with the Faculty Council to implement the provisions of the bill when it is signed by the governor. Fortunately, we're in a good spot at City Colleges in this body of work, as we've been focusing intently on improving students' developmental education outcomes. This past August, after nearly a year of collaborative work, our faculty and staff produced a developmental education report with specific recommendations that we're now intending to implement and working to implement. I look forward to updating the board more fully on the progress of that work at an upcoming meeting. Related to this body of work, I'm pleased to recognize as well that 3 of our colleges have received developmental education innovation grants from ICCB to help implement the recommendations that I've just mentioned that are part of our developmental education work here at City Colleges. And so I want to thank the members of that planning committee who produced that report and laid out a pathway for us to improve developmental education outcomes, as well as all of the faculty and staff working hard to support our students and see to it that they successfully reach their goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Provost Potter, and congratulations. Excellent news on the innovation grants. Terrific to hear. And as the Provost said, we will now begin with the review of agenda items. Today, we'll be hearing from the team at Malcolm X College about the Community Health Worker Program. So President Sanders, I will hand it to you.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Certainly it's an honor to present to you all today. I'm going to give a brief synopsis of what we're going to be presenting, and then I will turn it over to my team members who have done a fascinating job today. So the Community Health Worker Program, which we're going to be talking about today, started as a primary initiative of a BMO Harris grant that we had with Rush University Medical Center and Malcolm X College playing a primary role in developing this program. As such, there were 7 students in the initial cohort in 2016, which now has grown to over 100 students. And it caused us to start looking at how can we better prepare and create a pathway for students to take advantage of this program. In 2018, the Illinois Medical District indicated that the Community Health Worker Program, or community health workers, were one of the fastest growing careers in healthcare today. So as such, in 2019, we applied for a grant with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and were awarded almost $2.1 million for an opioid relief grant. And so the team today is going to walk you through a little bit of the history of the Community Health Worker Program, as well as the relevance to the community and why it is important for us to move it forward with the opioid grant. So without further ado, let me present to you our Associate Dean of Health Sciences, Elizabeth Jamitter, and our Director of the Community Health Worker Program, Veronica Seck. By the way, both of these individuals were responsible for the development of the contact tracing program that is being used by the City of Chicago today. Take it away.
Thank you so much, President Sanders, Board of Trustees, Chancellor Salgado, Dr. Potter, and other CCC leadership for having us here today to present. We're very thrilled to do so. As President Sanders said, I'm Dr. Elizabeth Jamitter, Associate Dean of Health Sciences at Malcolm X College, and my co-presenter, Director Veronica Seck, it oversees the Community Health Worker Program. Next slide, please. The building of the Community Health Worker Program began around 2012 with the introduction of the Affordable Care Act by President Barack Obama. One aim of the Affordable Care Act was to really change the way in which our Western medical system operated and supported health. In traditional Western medicine, we tend to see the body as a machine. When it is broken, we fix it. And the Affordable Care Act sought to really place more of an emphasis on prevention, accessibility, and supportive wraparound services to keep the machine, our bodies, from breaking in the first place, or at least to mitigate the impact, especially of chronic diseases. Prevention and support are at the heart of the work of community health workers, who we commonly call CHWs. CHWs are the connector between healthcare systems and community members. They've been around for a really long time and go by many titles. You might know them as patient navigator, health educator, care coordinator, or even today as contact tracer. CHWs are skilled in communication, cultural competence, and navigating complex systems such as healthcare. So in 2014, a pilot cohort progressed through our program, and with their feedback, we revised the curriculum to its present-day structure, a one-semester basic certificate program made up of 5 courses, inclusive of a fieldwork, hands-on, experiential learning component. Next slide, please.
Over the last 2 years, the Community Health Worker Program has expanded its reach, starting with the addition of the Early College Career Pathway through the city's Jumpstart to Jobs program, allowing high school seniors to complete the certificate. The following semester, the program expanded to the Arturo Velasquez Institute, launching a bilingual cohort in the Spanish language. That same semester, we supported students of color from the West Side through the Workforce Equity Initiative, expanding our efforts to communities where the CHWs are in most need. We continue to maintain these 3 initiatives. When the pandemic hit last spring, the city requested us to develop a course to train contact tracers in the skill set that CHWs flex every day. We teamed up with the Continuing Education Department to make this possible. As the need for CHWs has increased over the course of the pandemic, we launched our first group of apprenticeship students, preparing us for the next initiative. As the nation's COVID plans have shifted towards vaccine distribution, we've continued to support Chicago by beginning development on a vaccine ambassador training through community education to empower individuals on how to confidently and compassionately communicate about the science. Beyond the pandemic, today we'll be discussing our most recent initiative, which focuses on the opioid crisis. Next slide. Over the last 3 decades, there has been a rise in pain medication prescriptions, creating a public health issue. Our goal is to train community health workers to combat this issue. Next slide. Opioid use disorders have not only affected the individual, but also their family, especially youth. Our hope is to support their support system so that holistic wraparound care can be provided. Rather than burn out the patient's support network, the goal is to educate and equip them to survive together. Next slide. Unfortunately, the pandemic has increased the risk for relapse with the added stressors and social isolation. Inevitably, we're going to need a workforce to support this recovery. While the pandemic has taken up the headlines, we do anticipate once it has passed, the opioid crisis will be the #1 public health focus. Next slide.
So to that end, the Health Services and Resource Administration, known as HRSA, called for proposals for models to mitigate the impact of the opioid epidemic with an emphasis on youth and families. They awarded 19 organizations across the US a total of $11.5 million to do that work. Of that $11.5 million, Malcolm X received $2.1 million, the largest award amount that an organization could receive. The span of this work is over the next 4 years until 2024. And in that time, we plan to award at least 168 certificates in community health worker. And of those completers, we plan for at least 50% to matriculate into paid apprenticeship opportunities. Next slide, please. So you can see the scale and scope of this work will not be possible without strong key partnerships. Founded over 50 years ago, Gateway Foundation has touched the lives of over 1 million people suffering from addiction. As a leader in addiction medicine with a presence in 9 states, they will be offering the majority of our apprenticeships as a lead partner. Public Health Institute of Metropolitan Chicago has been part of the Chicago landscape for over 20 years. They focus on developing partnerships with community-based organizations to really enhance capacity and build infrastructure. Much of their current work is in the space of substance use and opioid use disorder, and they will serve as a partner in building apprenticeship opportunities as well. And finally, UIC will act as an external evaluator to collect data to show evidence towards the grant deliverables and beyond. Next slide, please.
In this grant initiative, there are 2 levels that encompass the earn and learn opportunity. During level 1, students complete the academic portion, which includes related technical instruction, earning them a basic certificate. During this level, we support students by covering their tuition, books, and offering a stipend. Next slide. After the completion of level 1, students are eligible to apply to level 2, the apprenticeship portion. This is a paid employment opportunity that includes structured on-the-job training with intentional mentorship and continued skill development based on the CHW core competencies. Next slide.
So we've made great progress to date since receiving this award in fall of 2020. We've hired our grant coordinator, Dr. Chanel Phillips. Collectively with faculty, we're curating curriculum germane to the opioid epidemic to embed within current coursework. We are sending 3 of our Wellness Center clinical psychologists to become trainers in mental health first aid. They will offer this training in both English and Spanish to our participants. And we are most excited about our first cohort of students that began the program this spring semester. We enrolled 20 students, which exceeded our expectation for this very first cohort. And we continue to develop our partnerships. Next slide, please. Here you can see a sampling of our partners with whom we work. Next slide, please. As I close, I would like to emphasize just a couple last points. Ultimately, we expect not only to increase the number of CHWs employed in Chicago committed to this work, but also to collect data that supports the return on investment that a model such as ours can make. We hope to influence policy change around reimbursement for the services of community health workers and to increase sustainable positions for them on operational budgets. Further, we plan to narrate and chronicle our process for executing our model within our context here in Chicago so that others may use it as a foundation for developing models in their environment. This has the potential to impact scale at a regional, national, and even global level in regard to the opioid epidemic. And finally, we plan to expand the CHW program within the CCC network, and I'm very pleased to say that this work is already beginning. Next slide, please. Thank you very much for this opportunity to share. Please feel free to reach out anytime if you have questions, know of an organization that might like to partner with us in this work, or if you'd like updates on our progress.
Thank you, Dr. Jamitter and Director. This concludes our presentation, but we certainly are welcoming any questions. And we certainly want to thank the Chancellor and the Provost for their support and direction. It is their goal and our goal to ensure that not only do we allow opportunities at our campus, but that we seek opportunities within our communities. And we want to impact the community in a positive way. So we welcome any questions you might have.
I have a question. So does anyone know whether or not in these legal settlements for the opioid, there are going to be money for programs like these?
No, Chair. I'm not aware of any monies like that would be coming from the settlements. It certainly is plausible and possible. What I do know is that there is a strong commitment at the federal level, and it's not just from the Department of Health and Human Services, but in other areas. And we're going to continue down this route because it's beneficial not only to the community, but it is obviously allows us some monies that help students to be able to address their barriers to entry into the program.
I would track that because usually when they get like in the tobacco settlement, usually when they have these things, there's usually money set aside that has to go to remedial programs. Anyway, very good program. Thank you.
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
I have a question. This was a great overview, President Sanders and team. What communities, again, let me back up. Are the students full-time in this program? So what is the makeup of the student body? Are these people coming out of high school, college? I'm just interested about the students actually signing on to the certificate program.
Sure. I can take that question. Great question. The students that are signing up for this program come from a variety of backgrounds. We really, at this point, are just looking for commitment to this niche area of community health work. This grant specifically targets impact on the west side of Chicago. So we do try to look to draw from that community with our students as well.
So this first cohort is made up of residents from the west side. Is that what you're saying?
Director Seck, do you want to talk about specifics of the cohort?
Yeah, this is a pretty diverse cohort from educational background to community. So I would say they draw from all parts of the city currently, which is has brought a diverse cohort to the program. But we did have specific recruitment on the west side, which did draw in additional students from that population.
I'd be interested in more detail around that when you can send it to me in a separate note. Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, to follow up on Trustee Tillman's question, mine was going to be, how are you recruiting? So you mentioned specific recruiting efforts in the West, but what's the overall recruiting to attract these students? Who knows about it and how do they learn about it?
Sure. With district marketing, we're able to set up a landing page specifically for this program that targets both students and organizations that might be interested in partnering throughout, spreading the word throughout our program advisory board membership. We've gotten the word out through our key partners that we spoke with today, getting the word out as well. So many different avenues.
And Trustee Lopez, let me answer that question, help append to that question, because we work with a lot of our community-based organizations in order to get our candidates. So, for example, I work with the Pilsen Neighborhood Community Council. They are a big partner of ours, and they bring in a lot of folks. We also work with Austin Coming Together. They're in the West Loop. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with Darnell Shield. He is a wonderful partner. And so what we're doing is we're planting the seed in each of these organizations. You know, part of the work that we want to do in the Chatham neighborhood is for the same type of thing, where we're planting it there. We're giving people the awareness and an access point to be able to come to the institution. We're also trying to eliminate any barrier. So again, the whole extension going to satellite campus is really about removing that barrier of transportation. If you can't make it, we'll bring the program to you. So it has a lot of tentacles out there. Obviously, we wanted to get this first group in, but you know, our goal is to have 168 of them over the 4-year period and possibly more. And so you're going to see a great diversity within the group.
And then just one comment to follow up on the chairman's comment. Illinois will receive part of the settlement from the McKinsey lawsuit. I think it's about $20 million of the $500 million that McKinsey just settled with. So I would certainly urge the team to reach out to Attorney General Kwame Raoul's office to understand how they're allocating that settlement dollars. And it seems to me this is a worthy investment by Attorney General Kwame Raoul.
We will definitely do that.
Thanks so much.
I just want one more comment, if I may. I just want to express my appreciation for the presentation. I thought it was very well done and a very good overview of this program. That sounds like, you know, it has legs, right, in terms of as a model and to expand on going forward. So I appreciate having this information and this knowledge, and you can hear from the questions a lot of interest. And so I think that this kind of presentation is good. Let's keep it up.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, thank you all so very much. We certainly appreciate this opportunity. We have a lot of initiatives going on at Malcolm X, but do know that we take pride in doing great work, and we're going to continue to do that to the best of our ability.
Absolutely. Thanks, President Sanders.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you all. Thank you, President Sanders. Thank you for leading such impactful work. And I agree, it was a terrific presentation. Thank you for that. We are now going to move into the review of items proposed for board action at the February 4th regular board meeting, which would take place directly after this meeting, starting at 2 o'clock. Will the Assistant Board Secretary please proceed with the review of the board reports?
Thank you, Vice Chair Swanson. For our presenters, please proceed one after another, briefly pausing to give the trustees an opportunity to ask any questions that they might have about the items being presented. We'll begin with resolutions. The order is as follows. AVC Anthony will review resolution 1.00. Deputy CFO Huang will review resolutions 1.01 and 1.02. Provost Potter will review resolutions 1.03 through 1.05. And CTO Dunning will review resolutions 1.06 through 1.09. President Sanders will review resolution 1.10. President Hollingsworth will review resolution 1.11. Chief Advisor Phillips will review resolution 1.12, and CTO Dunning will wrap up with resolution 1.13. AVC Anthony, please proceed.
Thank you. Resolution 1.00 requests the board's authority to proceed with the necessary actions to make district-owned property at 4153 West 76th Street available for sale. This property is adjacent to Daly College and is underutilized. Pursuant to Board Report 34033, the district has previously entered into agreements with real estate brokerage firms to maximize the potential revenue from property sales. Any future negotiated agreement to sell this property will be presented to the board for approval.
Resolution 1.01 is to abate the pledge taxes levied in 2020 as sufficient funds have been deposited with the trustee, U.S. Bank, to pay for the annual debt service requirement on the General Obligation Bond Series 2013. Resolution 1.02 is the same abatement resolution for General Obligation Bonds Series 2017. Once approved, the resolutions will be filed with the county clerks. Thank you.
Resolution 1.03 is for the approval of spring semester sabbatical leaves. Each year, we open up the opportunity to eligible faculty to apply for either a one-year or a one-semester sabbatical. That process runs in advance of fall semester, and per the provisions of the full-time faculty contract, if less than 5% of faculty are granted a sabbatical, we reopen the call for sabbatical requests for spring semester only sabbaticals. These sabbatical leave requests today are the result of that second call. In total, there are 3 leave requests from Harold Washington, Malcolm X, and Olive Harvey colleges. The projects that will be supported are a redevelopment of a biology laboratory course, research into criminal and social justice in service of the Olive Harvey College mission, and the creation of videos that will promote world languages. Resolution 1.04 seeks board approval for renewal and non-renewal of non-tenured faculty. During the first 3 years of a full-time faculty member's appointment, contract renewal is on a yearly basis until, following the 3rd successful year, tenure is achieved. Non-tenured faculty undergo a rigorous, though supportive, tenure assistance program that includes required mentoring, participation in seminars, and the completion of an independent learning and service plan. Ultimately, faculty are expected to demonstrate growth and meet expectations in 5 talents of teaching. The rigor of the renewal and tenure process is built into both the standards and the joint faculty administration oversight that's in place. Review begins at the department with faculty involvement and goes ultimately to the college president. Each college has a tenure coordinator to support the process, and those 7 coordinators work closely with district leaders in academic and student affairs. This setup ensures that processes are followed and standards are adhered to, and numerous checks leading directly to my office ensure the integrity of the process. This resolution covers the 29 current faculty members who were hired in the fall term over the last 3 years. It includes 10 second-year contract renewals, 7 third-year contract renewals, 11 affirmative tenure decisions. 1 faculty member will receive a 1-semester extension. and there are no non-renewals among this group. And Resolution 1.05 is for board approval of a new program, the Basic Certificate in Learning Behavior Specialist 1 at Truman College. With this basic certificate, Truman College adds to its offerings of programs leading to an endorsement for licensed teachers. The Illinois State Board of Education has granted its approval for Truman to offer this program to Illinois educators in order to address shortage areas in both special education and early childhood education. Truman College plans to offer this program to Chicago Public Schools teachers beginning in fall 2021.
Good afternoon. Resolutions 1.06 through 1.09 seek the board's approval to reappoint Dr. Sean Jackson, Dr. David Potash, David Sanders, and Dr. Gregory Thomas as the presidents of Harry S. Truman, Wilbur Wright, Malcolm X, and Kennedy King Colleges, respectively. These resolutions will be discussed during closed session in the board meeting.
Resolution number 1.01 is a request for authorization of an amendment to the lease agreement with the United Center joint venture, which allows use of the Malcolm X parking garage. The lease agreement provides scholarships for students of Malcolm X College, as well as funding for academic and sports programs for the college. The lease agreement is requested to be amended to change the terms to allow payments originally scheduled for December 2020 to be moved to December 2025 due to the pandemic.
Good afternoon. Resolution 1.11 seeks board approval to pay Dickinson Fleet for tractor trailer maintenance and repair services that were rendered from May 2019 to April 2020 without a written, fully executed contract. The invoice is set forth in Exhibit A requires board authorization for payment totaling $32,761.93.
Chief Advisor Phillips, you're on mute.
Thank you, Ashley. Resolution 1.12, release and disposition of closed session minutes, February 2019 through August 2019. This will be discussed in closed session and will be voted on after that. Thank you.
Resolution 1.13 seeks the board's approval to adopt the Presidential Leadership Development Policy, which will be discussed during closed session in the board meeting.
Thank you. If there are no questions on the resolutions, CTO Dunning, please review item 2.00, the personnel report.
Board item 2.0 is a
I have a question.
Oh,
Sorry
sorry.
about that. I just have a question regarding the extension of the payment. It was 5 years from December 2020 to December 2025. Is that correct? Why so long?
This is, you're talking about the Malcolm X parking garage?
Yes, President
Okay.
Sanders, thank you.
Yes, trustee. So no, what we're doing is every year they give us a payment. Because of the pandemic, there was no use of the parking garage and there was nothing that occurred. So what we're doing, instead of taking the payment for 2020, we wanted to move it onto the back end of the agreement, which would require us to get your authorization to change it. Payments will restart in 2021 and 2022, 23, 24, and we'll pick up that missing payment on the back end.
Thank you.
Sure.
I go ahead. Board item 2.0 is a request to approve the February 2021 personnel report. There are 52 actions on this month's report. They include 16 new and rehires, 17 promotions, title and salary changes, and 19 separations and retirements. This concludes this month's personnel report.
Thank you. If there are no questions, Vice Chancellor Brown, please proceed with the review of item 3.00, the resource development report.
This month's resource development report includes 18 grants received totaling more than $9.2 million. Highlights from this award cycle include gifts from the following sources. Harold Washington College received a $1 million Bank of America grant in support of its new jobs initiative that will help students of color enter the workforce in technology. Of note, Harold Washington is the first education partner in Illinois to receive B of A's $1 billion investment in racial equity. Kennedy King College received a $1 million investment from an anonymous source in support of the Tech Launchpad, a 3-year initiative for our students to pursue careers in the technology industry. Crown Family Philanthropies contributed $1.2 million in funding to support the enrollment and retention of 1,000 students from the COVID-impacted CPS class of 2020 graduates who have not yet enrolled in a post-secondary institution. Bridges to Brighter Futures funded a plan to build a district-wide capacity, infrastructure, and culture to support equity at the City Colleges of Chicago in the amount of $1.4 million. Malcolm X, Truman College, and Harold Washington received $1.3 million in renewals of TRIO grants for student support services. The Illinois Community College Board renewed four colleges in the district's Workforce Equity Initiative grants, including Malcolm X, Kennedy King, Wilbur Wright, and Olive Harvey. We also added Daly College as our 5th and new WEI grant recipient this year. Submissions, in terms of submissions, there were 19 submissions totaling over $4.8 million on the Resource Development Report, representing many of the grants submitted December and January, and funds been received. This concludes this month's Resource Development Report.
Thank you. If there are no questions from the trustees, we'll move on to agreements.
4.00 is for the authorization to execute an agreement with Ad Astra Information Systems. Ad Astra is an industry leader in higher education scheduling software consulting services that help CCC effectively manage space and faculty resources. The agreement with Ad Astra is to purchase software licensing and hosting services to automate faculty course and classroom scheduling. The terms of the agreement is for the period of February the 16th, 2021 through February the 15th, 2023 at a total cost not to exceed $141,400.
The next 3 board reports are relative to the opioid grants. So I will read it once and then I'll go over how this relates to the vendors we're requesting authorization for. Board Report 4.01 is a request for authorization to execute an agreement with the University of Illinois at Chicago to provide external program evaluation services for the period from January 1st, 2021 through August 31st, 2024 at a cost not to exceed $185,000. Malcolm X was awarded a grant by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to increase the number of students earning college credentials as community health workers as a part of the grant program to combat the opioid epidemic. UIC will work with our stakeholders of the grant to conduct the evaluation of the program using the Center for Disease Control's 6-step evaluation framework to assess compliance with program outcomes and activities. The opioid grant project's goal is to train up to 168 community health worker completers. Board Report 4.02 is a request for authorization to execute an agreement with the Gateway Foundation to provide community health worker placement services for the period from January 1st, 2021 through August 31st, 2024 at a cost not to exceed $140,000. And then Board Report 4.03 is a request for authorization to execute an agreement with the Public Health Institute of Metropolitan Chicago, PHIMC, to provide community-based apprenticeship, partner development, and placement services for the period from January 1st, 2021 through August 31st, 2024 at a cost not to exceed $85,000.
Thank you. If there are no questions on any of the agreements, we'll move on to the review of the one purchase. ABC Anthony.
Purchase 5.00 requests the board's authority for the monthly electrical low voltage job order contractor construction projects to be performed by the listed contractors. Board Report 33705 authorized the utilization of JOC as a construction delivery method to perform low voltage electrical improvements, maintenance, and repairs. This month's report lists one project for a total not to exceed amount of $29,220.95 at Olive Harvey College.
Thank you. No questions on that. General Counsel Gowan, the review of item 6.00.
Item 6.00 requests approval of legal fees totaling $202,541.62. Such fees cover litigation, labor and employment, higher education, and corporate matters.
Thank you. If there are no questions, Vice Chair Swanson, that concludes the review of this month's board reports.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. May I have a motion to discharge the February 4th, 2021 board packet, inclusive of the resolutions, personnel items, resource development report, agreements, purchases, and legal invoices included on today's committee agenda as part of the consent agenda to the February 4th, 2021 regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Perfect. Motion carried. So thank you all. Since there is no further business today before this committee, may I now please have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Great. Motion carried, and we are adjourned, and we will see